You're not weak. You're not fragile. What you have within you is something no one can ever take. But the world has been trying to convince you otherwise. They've told you that your silence, the very silence that has kept you safe, is a weakness. They've told you that your refusal to shout, to cry, to beg for help means that you're broken, that you're invisible. But let me tell you something. Silence is not your enemy. It's your weapon. Do you hear me? Your silence, that quiet that they call cowardice, that stillness they misinterpret as defeat, is the very thing that has carried you this far. And when you learn to wield it, when you recognize its true strength, you will understand that it was never meant to break you. It was meant to rebuild you. You've been trapped in a world that wants to drown you out, to make you speak when it's not your time, to push you into places where your voice is expected but never appreciated. They want you to shout louder, scream, raise your fists. They want you to fight on their terms, but they've never realized that there is a far greater power in silence than any noise they've ever made. Think about it. When was the last time you truly listened to yourself? When was the last time you sat in your own thoughts without the pressure to fill the space with empty words, just to be heard? The noise, the chaos, it pulls you in. It forces you to react, to explain, to justify. But inside, in the quiet, that's where your true power lies. The moment you step into the silence within you, you will realize that you don't need the world's approval. You don't need their loud opinions, their shallow judgments. You only need to reclaim your own voice, your own thoughts, your own silence. The world has trained you to believe that to survive you must speak. But I'm here to tell you something else. You will survive because you learn when to remain silent, to gather your strength in the stillness, and then strike when the moment is right. There is more power in the pause than in the endless chatter of those who don't know what it means to listen. And you've been listening all along, even when you felt like no one else was. You've been gathering your strength in the silence. Now, it's time to stop running from it. It's time to stop fearing the silence that has been your shadow, your refuge. So ask yourself, how long will you allow the world to make you doubt the power that's already inside you? How long will you let them make you feel small, insignificant, unseen because of your choice to stay quiet? When you master the silence, you master the world. The world will make noise, yes. The world will yell and scream, but their noise will never drown out the quiet strength that you've been nurturing within. They may try to break you, but they cannot break what they cannot understand. They may scream at you, but they cannot silence what has always been your secret weapon. This is the moment where you stop being afraid of your own silence. This is the moment where you realize that you've been using the wrong language all along. The language of peace, of patience, of waiting. The language of control. It's a language they don't teach you in schools or in the world around you, but it's the language of power, the language of those who understand that true strength lies in restraint, in composure, in the quiet before the storm. This is your weapon, and it's time to start wielding it. So, here's the question. Are you ready to stop listening to the world's noise and start listening to the most powerful force inside you? Because when you do, you will understand that silence, the thing you feared, is the deadliest weapon you could ever possess. And no one, no matter how loud they shout, can ever take that away from you. You've been there, haven't you? Sitting in a room full of people, feeling the walls close in around you. You're there, physically present, but emotionally, you're miles away. It's as if the world has forgotten you're even alive. Every word spoken around you feels like it's meant for someone else. Every laugh shared with others feels like a cruel reminder of your isolation. You have so much to say, but somehow the words just don't come. They never do they? The more you try to speak, the more you feel like your voice is being swallowed by the void, ignored, unheard, and unnoticed. And the silence, that dreadful silence, it's deafening. It echoes in your ears like a constant reminder that you don't belong. It suffocates you, holds you in place, making you feel invisible, as though you're nothing more than a shadow passing through life. And that shadow? It's the silence you've been forced to carry. But what do you do when the world around you tells you to speak up, to stand up, to make yourself seen? Yet every time you try, you end up feeling smaller, more insignificant, as if your words were never meant to be heard. How do you fight when it feels like the very act of speaking is nothing more than an invitation for more rejection, more judgment, more misunderstanding? You've been told to speak louder, but the more you shout, the more the world pushes you down until you question if it's even worth trying anymore. You've been told that silence is weakness, but what if that very silence is all that's keeping you together? The truth is, silence has been a constant companion. It's the armor you've worn for as long as you can remember. But instead of protecting you, it started to feel like a trap, a prison with no bars, just the quiet whispers of doubt, the suffocating weight of feeling like no one sees you. And you've felt powerless in the face of it all. Powerless to speak, powerless to act, powerless to be anything other than what they've made you feel you are. But what if I told you that you're not weak? What if I told you that this silence you've carried, the silence that's been so misunderstood, is not your prison but your weapon? What if I told you that the reason you felt so powerless is not because you've been quiet, but because you've been letting the world dictate your worth? You've been allowing them to decide your value based on how loudly you speak, how much attention you get. You've let their standards shape the way you see yourself. But here's the truth. You are not defined by their noise. You are defined by the strength that resides in your silence, a strength they will never understand because it's not meant to be loud. You've carried the weight of the world's expectations for far too long. Expectations that told you to speak up, to be seen, to be noticed. They told you that silence is a weakness, that if you don't raise your voice, you're nothing. But what they didn't tell you is that silence doesn't have to be a sign of submission. Silence can be power. And yet here you are, feeling stuck, in your own mind, in your own heart, trapped by the weight of your own fears and doubts. The world's demands weigh heavily on you, and no matter how hard you try, you can't escape them. You fear rejection, you fear failure. You fear being misunderstood. You fear being seen for who you truly are because you're not sure you even know who that person is anymore. You've become a reflection of what they wanted you to be, not who you were meant to become. This is the battle you face, a battle between the life you've been told to live and the one you're meant to create for yourself. A battle between being who they want you to be and becoming who you're meant to be. But in this battle, you've been fighting with the wrong weapons. You've been fighting with your words when the world has been drowning them out. You've been fighting with your actions when all they've ever done is bring you more pain. What if I told you that the real weapon, the one that will change everything, isn't something you need to shout about? What if it's the very silence you've been hiding from? The villain in this story isn't your silence. It's the fear, the doubt, and the societal expectations that have convinced you that your worth is tied to how much you speak, how many people hear you, how loud you can be. The villain is the belief that being seen and heard by others is the only way to truly matter. The villain is the belief that your silence is nothing but weakness. But you know what? You've been silent, yes. You've been quiet for too long. But in that quiet, you've learned something most people will never understand. You've learned to listen, to reflect, to feel, to be present in a way that others can't even begin to fathom. Your silence has given you a clarity that others can't see. It's given you the strength to endure, to survive. And now, it's time for you to understand that the real strength is in reclaiming that silence as your weapon, not as your burden. You are not broken, you are not weak. You are simply in the process of discovering the strength in your silence. A strength that will carry you through the noise, the chaos, and the uncertainty. You don't need to shout to be heard. You don't need to make a scene to make an impact. You are already powerful, and it's time to show the world just how powerful that silence can truly be. You feel it, don't you? That heavy weight pressing down on your chest, that suffocating sense of helplessness. It's not just the world around you that's closing in. It's your own mind, your own heart. Every step you take feels like it's pulling you deeper into a hole that you can't escape. No matter how hard you fight, the walls just keep getting higher, the air thicker. And the more you struggle, the more it feels like you're sinking, like you're caught in a current that's dragging you further and further from where you want to be. There are days when it feels like all of your efforts, everything you've tried, every ounce of energy you've put into changing your life has been in vain. You try to take a step forward, but every step you take is met with resistance, like the ground itself refuses to let you rise. It feels like you're stuck in a never-ending loop of struggle, exhaustion, and disappointment. The dreams you once had seem distant, out of reach, like they belong to someone else. You've tried to hold on to hope, tried to believe that things will get better, but after so much time, so much effort, the hope feels thinner, weaker. It's almost as if hope itself is a fading memory. It's hard to keep going when it feels like you've been fighting for so long, but the victory is nowhere in sight. How many times have you told yourself this is the last time? How many times have you told yourself, I can't do this anymore, only to find yourself back at the starting point, pushing through yet another day of feeling unseen, unheard, and unnoticed? The exhaustion, the mental, emotional, and physical toll it takes, it doesn't stop. It's relentless. It's suffocating. And here you are, caught in the midst of it all. The road ahead seems impossibly long, and every time you look forward, it's hard to see any kind of end. The weight of your past mistakes, your regrets, the things you didn't do, the things you did wrong, it all feels like it's pressing down on you, suffocating you from the inside out. You're trapped in your own mind, trapped by your own fears, trapped by the weight of a world that seems indifferent to your pain. And that's the hardest part, isn't it? The world keeps moving forward, and here you are, struggling to take the next breath. It's like everyone else is walking through life with ease, while you're stuck, unable to move, unable to find your way. You look at others, and you see them moving ahead. They seem fine. They're going places, achieving things, making progress, while you're standing still. They don't even know the battle you're fighting every single day. They don't know the toll it takes on you to keep pretending that everything is okay when inside, you're falling apart. You're screaming, but no one hears you. You're fighting, but no one sees the war you're waging inside. The world tells you to pick yourself up, to keep going, to keep fighting. But what if you're too tired to fight anymore? What if you've reached the point where you feel like you have nothing left to give, where you feel like every ounce of energy has been drained from you? The very idea of pushing forward feels impossible, like your body and your mind are shutting down, refusing to cooperate. Where do you go from here when you feel like you've reached the end? This is your lowest point. The place where it feels like there's no way out, no way forward. The place where you feel like you've been broken beyond repair, where the weight of your struggles has become too much to carry. You're here, and it's hard to see a way out. But listen closely. This is not the end. It's not the end, no matter how it feels. This is the moment where everything changes. This is the moment when you realize that your struggle is not your defeat, but the beginning of your transformation. Yes, you're at your lowest, but the lowest point is where the deepest change happens. It's when you are broken that you realize how much more you are capable of than you ever thought possible. This is the moment that will redefine you. This is where the true battle begins. Not the one against your circumstances, but the one within you. The one where you reclaim your strength, your power, your silence. You've been defeated, yes. You've been beaten down. But that's not the end of your story. Your story is still being written. This moment of despair is where your true power begins to emerge. You've fought the world, fought your fears, fought your doubts. Now it's time to fight for yourself. The person you were meant to be is waiting for you on the other side of this struggle. And it's not about getting back up because you have to. It's about getting back up because you finally realize that the fight isn't over. It's not about giving up. It's about realizing that the end of this chapter is just the beginning of the next one. So don't give up. Don't let this despair define you. Don't let it be the thing that holds you back. This moment is the catalyst for your transformation. And when you look back, you'll see that this was the moment that everything changed. Not because your circumstances changed, but because you changed. This is not the end. This is your beginning. The darkness, the suffocating weight that has held you down for so long, it isn't as permanent as it seems. Right now it feels like a vast, never-ending abyss, unfathomable, deep, and consuming. But within that abyss, hidden beneath layers of doubt and fear, there is something stirring. It is so subtle, so quiet that you might not even recognize it at first. But there is a spark, a small, flickering spark that has been there all along, waiting for the right moment to ignite. And that moment, my friend, is now. You've been walking through the dark, stumbling, struggling, and it's easy to feel as though there is no way forward. But I want you to pause for just a moment and consider this. The darkest night always gives birth to the dawn. Even now, while it feels like you've been consumed by the darkness, that very darkness is cradling the seeds of your transformation. The weight you feel, it's not a barrier to your growth. It's a fertile ground, rich with potential. Your struggle, your pain, it's not something that will break you. It's something that will shape you into who you're meant to be. I know it's hard to see it now, but this is the moment where everything begins to change. The pain, the fear, the exhaustion, they were never meant to destroy you. They were meant to shape you, to mold you into something stronger than you've ever been. The seeds of change are planted in the soil of struggle. You've been in the storm, battered by the winds, and now you must find the stillness to allow those seeds to take root. The power you need to overcome this, it's already inside you, waiting to emerge. But here's the secret. Silence is the key. It's so simple yet so powerful. And right now, silence may be the one thing you need to move forward. I know silence feels like a heavy burden sometimes. It feels like a void, an absence. But silence is not absence. Silence is potential. Silence is power. Consider the stillness before a storm. The world goes quiet for a moment, as if holding its breath. It's in that stillness that the greatest forces are born. The storm doesn't come from the silence itself. It comes from the energy that's been building up in the quiet, the tension that has been gathering in the background. And that's exactly what's happening with you right now. The stillness you feel, the silence that has consumed you, it is not your enemy. It is the energy you need to break through. Every time you feel like you're standing still, like you're stuck, remember this: stillness does not mean stagnation. Just as the ocean is silent before a wave crashes against the shore, your silence is building up the force you need to make your move. The journey you've been walking is not a dead-end road. It's a path that has been preparing you for something far greater. In your silence, you have been gathering strength. And I know it's hard to believe right now. You've felt so small, so powerless, for so long. But what you might not see is that you've been in the process of building an unshakable foundation. You've been learning, growing, and adapting, even in the silence. All of the struggles you faced, all of the pain you've endured, they've been teaching you something invaluable. They've been teaching you resilience. They've been teaching you the art of silence. They've been teaching you that true strength doesn't come from shouting the loudest. It comes from the quiet determination to stand, even when the world feels like it's pushing you down. Your silence is not a surrender. It is a strategy. And as much as the world has told you that you need to speak louder to be heard, I'm here to tell you that the time has come for you to shift the power dynamics in your favor. The loudest voices are not always the most powerful. The most powerful voices are the ones that are calm, deliberate, and unwavering. The power is in your ability to control your response, to master your emotions, and to wield your silence as a force of strength. I want you to understand this. Your silence is not a symbol of weakness. It is a reflection of your ability to wait for the right moment, to know when to move and when to remain still. In the silence, you gather your power. In the silence, you regain control. And when you finally choose to speak, it will be with the weight of all that silence behind it. Your words will not be empty. They will be filled with the force of everything you've endured, everything you've learned, everything you've become. You are not waiting for the world to change. You are not waiting for anyone else to give you permission to rise. You are the one who has been preparing yourself for this moment. You are the one who has been silently gathering the strength, the wisdom, the power to make your move. And now that you've seen the truth of your own silence, now that you understand its potential, you can begin to take action. Not from a place of desperation or need, but from a place of absolute strength and control. The seeds of change have been planted within you, and now it's time for them to grow. You may not see the changes yet, but they're coming. Just as the storm follows the stillness, your transformation follows this silence. You have been prepared for this moment, and now you have everything you need to change your world. It won't happen overnight, it won't be easy, but the journey you've been on has been laying the foundation for this. You've been learning, growing, and adapting, quietly in your own way. And now the time has come to rise up, to take control of your life, and to let the world see the power you've been silently cultivating. The journey is just beginning, and from here, there's nowhere to go but up. You've already made it further than you think. Every battle you've fought, every moment where you've stood in the face of adversity, thinking you were defeated, you were actually laying the foundation for something greater. You may have thought you were powerless, but now it's time to realize that your power has always been with you, waiting to be unlocked. And the key to that power lies in the silence you've been so afraid of. The world has tried to convince you that silence is synonymous with weakness. They've made you believe that if you don't speak up, if you don't shout, you won't be heard. But what if I told you that the loudest voices are often the ones that make the least impact? What if I told you that silence isn't the absence of power, but the quiet preparation for something far stronger than anything noise could ever produce? Silence is not a void, it is a force. It's the calm before the storm, the quiet before the power erupts. You see, in that stillness, you gather strength. Imagine for a moment what it would feel like to take complete control of your silence, to stop fearing it, stop seeing it as something to run from. What if your silence could become your most potent weapon? What if instead of drowning in the noise of the world, you learn to find peace and power in the stillness? This is where true transformation happens. Not when you are reacting to the chaos around you, but when you are centered, calm, and focused within yourself. When you step into your silence, you step into your true power. The chaos around you, the noise, the distractions, the expectations, none of it matters. You are the calm in the storm. You are the one who controls your thoughts, your emotions, and ultimately your actions. The power doesn't come from how loud you can scream or how hard you can fight. The power comes from knowing when to be silent, when to listen, and when to act. Silence, when used intentionally, becomes your greatest asset. The first step to transforming your silence into power is understanding that you've been giving away your agency. You've been allowing others, circumstances, and even your own doubts to dictate your actions, your feelings, your responses. But that stops now. It's time for you to take back control. You don't need to react to everything that happens around you. You have the power to decide what gets your energy and what doesn't. The moment you stop giving in to the noise, the moment you stop responding to the chaos, is the moment you reclaim your power. You are not at the mercy of the world. You are the architect of your own fate. Your silence is not something that should hold you back. It's a space for you to breathe, to reflect, and to grow stronger. You may not see it now, but every time you choose to remain silent instead of reacting, you're building your inner strength. You're making yourself immune to the distractions that others allow to control them. You're learning how to stand firm in the face of adversity. Think about this for a moment. When chaos surrounds you, it's easy to feel like you must match that chaos, like you must respond to every single challenge, every negative word, every unfair judgment. But that's where the world has misled you. True power is not in reacting to every challenge, but in remaining centered, in controlling your response. You don't need to shout to be heard. You don't need to fight to be respected. Your strength lies in your ability to remain composed, to stay grounded, to stay silent when everyone else is losing their minds. And here's the beautiful truth. The silence you've feared has always been your strength, your defense against the world's chaos. It is where you find clarity, where you sharpen your mind, where you connect to your inner self. It's where you can step back and evaluate what truly matters to you. The world will try to drown you out, but they will never be able to silence your inner voice. When you choose to listen to yourself, when you choose to trust your own instincts and thoughts, you become unshakable. No amount of noise can take that away from you. You've been allowing your circumstances to define you for too long. You've been letting the world tell you who you should be, what you should feel, how you should act, but now it's time to break free from that. The first step in reclaiming your power is to stop letting anyone or anything take your peace. You don't need the approval of others. You don't need to follow their timeline. You can step into your own agency and decide how you respond to the world. Start by embracing the silence. Learn to sit with it. Get comfortable in the stillness. This is where your power grows. In the silence, you are not passive. You are in full control. You don't need to rush, to respond, to react. You have the ability to choose your next move, to decide when and how you will act. The more you practice this, the stronger you will become. You'll learn to recognize the power that comes with being calm, with being still, with being deliberate in your actions. This is the moment where you stop being a passive observer in your own life and become the creator of your destiny. You've been given everything you need to succeed, to rise above the noise and to become the person you were always meant to be. All of that power is within you, waiting to be unleashed. The more you learn to harness the strength found in silence, the more unstoppable you become. So take a deep breath, reclaim your silence, and let that silence be the catalyst for your transformation. You are not weak, you are not passive, you are powerful beyond measure. And from this moment on, you will use your silence to transform the world around you. So your silence will become the strongest force you've ever known. You've come to a pivotal moment in your journey. All of the struggles, the pain, the doubts, the silences, they've all been leading you to this. Every step you've taken, every moment you've fought, even the times you've felt completely defeated have been preparing you for this revelation. And now, it's time for you to truly understand the power that you've been carrying all along, the power that you've been afraid to acknowledge, the strength that has been silently building within you. What if I told you that everything you've been taught about power, about strength, about success has been wrong? What if I told you that the real power, the power you need to change everything, to shift the course of your life, has never been about shouting, about fighting, or about proving anything to anyone else? What if I told you that the most dangerous weapon you can wield isn't something you say or do, it's the silence that you've been hiding from? Right now, you may feel a sense of disbelief. How can silence be power? How can something that feels so passive, so still, be the force that will change everything? But I'm telling you, silence, when wielded with intention, is the deadliest weapon you can possess. It is the weapon of resistance, the force that resists the chaos, the noise, and the lies that have kept you stuck. It is the weapon of resilience, the strength to endure, to hold steady, even when the world is crashing down around you. And it is the weapon of transformation, the quiet, deliberate force that can shift everything, starting with you. Do you see it now? The power was never in the noise. Never in the external validation, never in the applause or recognition of others. It was always in your silence. It was in your ability to remain composed, to stay centered, to observe, to reflect, to act when the time was right. It's in that stillness that you've been gathering your power. You have been silently preparing for this moment, for the realization that everything you need to create change, to transform your life, was always within you. I want you to feel this deeply, to let it sink into your bones. Your silence has always been your strength. In the silence, you've been gathering clarity. You've been observing your world. You've been learning the lessons that others, caught up in the noise, have missed. While they screamed for attention, you've been quietly building your power, gathering the tools you need to become the person you were always meant to be. And now the moment has come to unleash that power. It's time to stop seeking validation from the outside world. You've been trained to look for it, to seek approval, to measure your worth by the standards of others. But that ends today. The truth is, you don't need anyone else to validate your existence. Your power is not dependent on what others think of you, how they judge you, or whether they acknowledge your efforts. Your power is found in the silence you've cultivated within yourself. And now, it's time to trust it. It's time to trust that the silent force within you is stronger than any external validation could ever be. Can you feel it? That power? It's quiet, yes, but it's growing. It's waiting to be unleashed. The world may have tried to tell you that you need to be louder, bolder, more aggressive. But I'm here to tell you something else. You don't need to scream to be heard. You don't need to fight to be seen. The world will know your strength when you decide to stop seeking its approval and start trusting the power that resides within you. When you stop reacting to the chaos, to the noise, and you begin to act from a place of deliberate silence, you will command the world's attention without uttering a single word. What you're about to realize is this: silence is not passive. Silence is not submission. Silence is control. When you choose silence, you choose to step into your own power. You choose to stop being a pawn in the hands of external forces, and you begin to take control of your own destiny. In that silence, you are the one who decides when to move, when to speak, when to act. In that silence, you are the one who holds the power. I want you to take a deep breath and let that sink in. You are not powerless. You have everything you need to change your life, to change the world around you. The key to that change lies in the power of your silence. It lies in your ability to remain calm, to stay grounded, to resist the external noise, and to act from a place of inner strength. This is the moment where you stop looking outside for answers. This is the moment where you begin to trust yourself fully. Trust the silence that has carried you this far. Trust the strength that lies within you, waiting to be unleashed. And when you do, when you step into that silence with confidence, you will realize that there is nothing and no one who can stop you. This is your awakening. The power you've been seeking was never out there. It was always inside you. And now you know the truth. Your silence is not weakness. It is your greatest weapon. You stand at the edge of a new beginning. The person you were, the one who struggled in silence, the one who fought to be heard, the one who doubted their worth, is no longer the person you are becoming. The transformation that has been unfolding within you has reached its peak. You are no longer defined by your past struggles or your fears. You are defined by the power of your silence, by the strength that you have cultivated through every challenge, every moment of doubt, every breath of uncertainty. Oh, you see it now? You are no longer the victim of your circumstances. You are no longer the person who allowed the world's noise to drown out your voice. The chaos, the confusion, the overwhelming sense of helplessness, it's all fading. It's being replaced by a new force within you, one that is calm, deliberate, and unshakable. You are becoming a silent force of nature, a powerful presence that commands respect not through words, but through the strength of your being. Think about who you were before. Think about the doubts, the insecurities, the fear of not being enough. You once believed that your worth was tied to how loud you could speak, how much attention you could get. You believed that you needed to shout to be seen, to act to be respected, to fight to be noticed. But that was never your truth. You've been moving toward a new version of yourself, one who understands that your worth does not come from external validation. It comes from within. It comes from your ability to remain steady, to stay grounded, to hold your silence and still be powerful. Imagine the future you are stepping into. The person you are becoming is not bound by fear or insecurity. You are confident, not because you've shouted your worth to the world, but because you've quietly mastered the art of your own inner strength. You command respect because you know your value, because you no longer seek approval, because your silence speaks volumes. You walk into a room and people notice your presence, not because you make a scene, but because they can feel the force of your energy. They feel the confidence you exude, not from what you say, but from how you carry yourself. Your silence is no longer an absence, it's a statement. Your silence is the foundation upon which you build your relationships, your career, your sense of self-worth. The relationships you nurture will change because you are no longer seeking validation. You are no longer engaging in conversations to prove yourself. Instead, you're engaging with others from a place of inner peace, inner strength, and quiet confidence. You will attract the right people into your life, those who recognize your worth without the need for you to say a word. They will respect you not because you demand it, but because you've shown them through your silent strength that you are someone who commands respect without having to shout. Your career will elevate as well. You will no longer chase after opportunities, but they will come to you. Why? Because when you've mastered your silence, you've mastered your own mind, your own thoughts, and your own actions. You know when to speak and when to listen. You know when to move and when to stay still. This balance, this quiet mastery over your own energy, will make you the most valuable person in any room. You will thrive, not because you are louder than anyone else, but because you are more intentional with your presence, your actions, and your decisions. And most importantly, your sense of self-worth will be unshakable. You will no longer rely on the opinions of others to define your value. You will know deep down that you are worthy, not because of what you can give to the world, but because of what you have already built within yourself. Your worth does not come from the outside, it comes from the silent strength that resides in your core. You are whole. You are enough. Do you see the shift that has taken place within you? Do you see how far you've come? The person you were afraid, unsure, desperate for validation has given way to a new person. A person who understands that their silence is not an absence, but the beginning of everything they've ever wanted. You've learned that silence is not your weakness, it's your greatest power. And now you stand ready to use that power to create the life you've always dreamed of. You are no longer waiting for anyone to give you permission to rise. You've already risen. You've already claimed your place in this world, and now you are ready to take it to the next level. The transformation you've undergone isn't just about finding your voice. It's about understanding that your voice was never your power. Your power has always been in the silence that has been your greatest teacher, your greatest strength, your greatest weapon. And now that you've mastered it, there is nothing that can stop you. This is the new you, the one who walks into any room with the quiet confidence of someone who knows their worth, the one who doesn't need to shout to be heard because their presence alone speaks volumes, the one who commands respect not through force, but through the quiet mastery of their own being. And this, my friend, is only the beginning. The future you are stepping into is one where you thrive, not because you've fought, but because you've mastered the silence. And in that silence, you will become unstoppable. This is your moment. Everything you've learned, everything you've endured, everything you've become, it's all led you to this exact point. You stand at the threshold of a new reality, a reality where you are no longer the victim of your circumstances, but the master of your fate. Now it's time to step into your power. For too long, you have been standing on the sidelines, unsure of yourself, waiting for the world to give you permission to rise. But the world is not waiting for your permission. The world is waiting for you to act, for you to claim your power, for you to embrace the truth that has been hiding within you all along. It's time to stop waiting. It's time to stop hiding. It's time to use what you've been given, your silence, and transform it into your greatest weapon. Now, here's the challenge. Take that silence and turn it into action. Your silence has never been passive, never been weak. It has always been a quiet force, patiently waiting to be unleashed. But waiting is no longer an option. It's time to act. You've learned that your power doesn't come from the noise around you. It doesn't come from the validation of others. Your power comes from your ability to stay grounded, to stay calm, to stay centered, even when the world around you is chaos. That power is yours now, and it's time to start using it. Here's what you need to do next. 1. Embrace your silence. Begin with understanding that silence is your strength, not your weakness. It is not an absence of action. It is the space where your power grows. In the next moment of chaos or uncertainty, take a step back. Find that inner calm. Refuse to react. In that moment, your silence will become the force that guides you. 2. Decide who you are. You are no longer defined by the world's expectations. You are not the sum of your past mistakes, your failures, your doubts. You are defined by your ability to rise, by your ability to master yourself. Every time you look in the mirror, remind yourself of the strength that now resides within you. You are capable. You are powerful. You are enough. 3. Focus on your internal power. Stop looking for validation from external sources. Stop seeking approval. The power you need to move forward is within you. When you feel the urge to seek outside affirmation, remind yourself that your strength comes from within. Take a moment to be still, to connect with your inner voice, and trust that you have everything you need to succeed. 4. Take deliberate action. Now that you've claimed your power, it's time to use it. Act with intention. Every move you make should be guided by your inner strength, not by fear or doubt. When you act from this place, you will find that the world begins to align with your energy. Opportunities will present themselves. You will be noticed, not because you fought for attention, but because your quiet strength speaks louder than any words ever could. 5. Build resilience, one step at a time. Understand that your journey is not linear. There will be setbacks, moments of doubt, times when you feel like you're back at square one. But remember this, every time you step into your power, every time you use your silence to fuel your actions, you become stronger. Resilience is built through consistent, deliberate effort. 6. Continue to cultivate your silence. It's your sanctuary, your grounding force. Every time you feel overwhelmed, return to the calm that lives inside you. With every step you take, your silence becomes more powerful. It is your anchor in the storm, and it will continue to guide you as you move forward. Now, I want you to feel this deep in your soul. You are in control. Your transformation is in your hands. No one can take your power from you unless you give it away. And now, you know that you don't need to shout. You don't need to fight. You don't need to beg. You just need to step into your silence and let it lead you. This is the moment you've been waiting for. The time to act is now. Embrace your silence. Embrace your power. Stop waiting for permission to rise. You are the master of your destiny. You are the one who holds the key to your future, and now you must unlock it. Step into your power. Let your silence be the weapon that changes everything. Let it guide you toward the future you've always known was possible. The world is waiting for you to step into it, and now you're ready. This is your moment. This is your time. The world will never be the same because you have just become the force that will change it. And it starts with you, right now.